Hello everybody, so today we're going to be starting off with the subtraction of integers. Now the subtraction of integers is pretty basic stuff. It's just subtracting negatives is what we're doing right now. So it's -6 minus 5, which is just -11. Yeah. Um and if you don't know how to do that, just make a number line and then put -6 and then you go down 5 times. So it could look like this. Okay, so you have a number line and then you take -6, which is right here. And because you're subtracting 5, you gotta go back 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this 5 is a -11 because you have to take 5 from because it'd be -7, -8, -9, -10, -11. Okay, and then uh, and then once you stop needing a number line, you can just do it all in your head. So -3 minus 8 would just be another -11. Okay. Yeah. No. The second section is also pretty simple. It's just another back to the basics. The only thing that you really have to be the only thing you really have to remember is when you're multiplying things with different signs, it will always be a negative. Okay, so 7 times 2 is a 14, but it's a -14 because it's a +7 times a -2. So it's +7 times a -2. If it was a +7 times a +2, then you get just 14. And if it was a -7 times a -2, you get just 14. And if it be a -7 times a +2, you get -14. So opposite signs equals negative and same signs equal positive. Okay, and so that's really the only thing that you have to remember. So like number 2 is 5 times -4, so that's a negative because it's positive times negative, and then 5 times 4 is just 20. Okay, number 4, it's positive times positive, positive 5 times positive 7, so you just get a positive 35. Okay, yeah. The next section is a bit harder. It's calculating circumferences. Now circumference is just 2 pi r, where r is just the radius. So if you look at number 1, the radius is 0.9 feet. All right. So what you want to do is you want to take this 0.9 feet and you multiply it by 2. And so you get 1.8. And then you want to multiply this 1.8 times pi. So you go to the calculator over here and you get a 1.8 and you multiply it by pi. And the answer you get is this crazy number over here. If the question tells you to round, then round. But in this case, it didn't say to round to the nearest tenth or to round to the nearest hundredth. So you just take whatever the calculator gives you and you put it straight in. Okay. Now number 2 is a bit more complicated because they don't give you the radius. They give you the diameter. The diameter is 1.6. What you do know is that the radius is always half of the diameter. So all you do is take 1.6, you divide by 2, and you get 0.8. Okay, and then after that you have to multiply it by 2 to get 1.6. Okay, so when you're trying to calculate circumference, it could either be 2 pi r, or it could just be pi d, which is just pi times diameter. Depending on which one's more convenient based on the information they give you, that's the one you use because it's the exact same thing. So for number 1, you would use 2 pi r because they gave you the radius, but for number 2, they gave you the diameter, so it'd just be pi d. This would be the formula you use, pi d. Okay, and so then you take 1.6. Sorry. You take 1.6 and then you multiply it by pi. And the answer you get is this crazy number over here. And that's your answer. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. So in this case, you'd use circumference equals 2 pi r, and for number 4, you would use circumference equals pi d. All right. The last section is ratio word problem. So the ratio of tomatoes to red apple is 2 to 5. If there are 20 tomatoes, how many red apples are there? Okay, so for every 2 tomatoes, there are 5 red apples. And if there are 20 tomatoes, so you want to keep this ratio of 2 to 5, but you want to change the 2 to a 20. So what you want to do is you want to take this 20 and divide it by 2, okay? Because that's what it is. It says 2. So you take this 2 from the ratio and you divide, so you get 10. All right. And so now you take this 10, all right, you take this 10 that you got and you multiply it by the second half of the ratio, which in this case is a 5. So you multiply 5 by 10 and then you get 50, okay? And so if there are 20 tomatoes, how many red apples there are? There are 50 red apples, okay? Because 20 to 50 has the same ratio as 2 to 5. You just multiply both by 10. Okay, cool. The second question is the ratio of berries to oranges is 10 to 1. So for every 10 berries, there's 1 orange. And if there are 25 oranges, then what you have to do is you have to divide 25 by 1 because that's oranges is 1. And so you get 25, obviously. And then you multiply 25 by 10, which is just adding a 0 on it. So there are 250 berries for every 25 oranges because 250 to 25 has the same ratio as 10 to 1. Because if you multiply 250 and 25 both by 25, you get 10 to 1. Okay. And then this last question is just the ratio of potatoes to turnips is 1 to 1. If there are 473 potatoes, how many turnips? So then you divide 473 by 1, which is 473. Then you multiply 1 by 473, which is just 473. Because then the ratio would be 473 potatoes to 473 turnips. And if you divide both sides by 473, you get 1 to 1, which is the original ratio. Okay, and that's how you solve ratio problems. I hope this was helpful. Have a nice day.